Story 1. This was back when I was in college, in Canada, working part-time as a dishwasher at a restaurant. A little bit about the restaurant owner. He was an alcoholic. He would crack open a beer first thing after he opened the restaurant for the day. Then he would drink continuously throughout the day. All day, every day, and when he did, he yelled and swore at his employees. He would keep drinking in the evenings, and sometimes he would pass out. Because I was responsible for cleaning, oftentimes I was the last one to leave at the end of the day. One night, he drank so much he passed out on the seats at the back of the restaurant. Then he yelled at me the next day for not waking him up. I later learned that he slept through the night with all of the lights still on inside the restaurant and the front door unlocked. But I digress. The biggest kicker was how the owner thought he could mess with our wages, shortchange us in the most blatant ways possible, and get away with it. He kept a notebook where we would record our hours worked. Unfortunately, when it came to calculating our wages, he calculated the minutes as decimals. That is, 15 minutes equal signs of 0.15 hours, 30 minutes equal signs of 0.30 hours, and 45 minutes equal signs of 0.45 hours. And he did that with every day we worked. He was very much aligned with what he believed was the Chinese working culture: 996 work schedule for full-time employees, straight-up sub-minimum wages, no overtime, no holiday pay, etc., and any suggestion to the contrary was met with direct verbal abuse. There were no breaks. We worked continuously. The one time I did get a short break, I had worked for 15 hours non-stop, and he thought I was about to burn out right where I was standing. Back then I was still a college kid, so I didn't know my legal rights that well, and he made it clear that it was not up for discussion. But I had a strong feeling that something wasn't quite right. It bothered me terribly, and I had to do something eventually. The only reason I worked this job was to earn some money on the side. I was handing out resumes one day, and he hired me immediately. He got my resume in the afternoon and told me to start working that evening. I didn't like to be yelled at, but I thought it was just a normal part of the job, so I basically toughed it out while he bombarded me several times a day. Soon enough, I kinda got used to it. But deep down, I was angry. I wanted out, but I didn't know how. At the same time, I needed to do something. Then the opportunity presented itself. The straw that broke the camel's back was how he wanted me to work on Canada Day. My shift was scheduled from 11 a.m. to about 3 a.m. the next day, with no bonus, no holiday pay, no nothing, at sub-minimum wage, that's it. No breaks either, remember? Of course I bailed on him when that day arrived. He asked 20 times over the last 2 months, and I told him no every time. When he approached me, he wasn't asking. He was straight up telling me that I must work on that day, under those conditions. Screw that. He fired me the very next day. I couldn't be more delighted. I went right over to the labor board and reported the heck out of him. I told them everything. I also told them where to find that notebook with all the evidence in it. The officer at the labor board gave me a very serious look and told me he would investigate this thoroughly. The owner was illegally hiring study abroad kids from China to do the dirty work for him and treating them like absolute crap. One of the waiters told me she was paid as little as $6 an hour. The officer at the labor board ordered the owner to pay me more than $1,000 in compensation. Some days later, I brought a buddy with me and returned to the restaurant to collect the rest of what I owed. I got quite a few missed calls from the owner after that. Then I blocked his number. The cherry on top? I think they must have been audited or something, because soon after my complaint, I walked by it one day and it was completely boarded up. I went on Google to check, and they listed the location as permanently closed. Story 2. I remembered an incident that happened to my classmate when we were in secondary school. I was in second year, I guess stateside that would be 8th grade. So anyway, for the first 3 years I had this teacher for geography, and she was literally Satan walking the earth. She hated children and listened to no one, even the principal. In my country, it was legal to hit kids in school until the early 90s, but that changed literally overnight, and it became illegal to even touch kids without their consent or to curse at them, and I'm so glad I went to school after these laws came in. Otherwise, there would have been serious beatings handed out in her class. Anyway, she had a set of rules coming into her class regarding equipment, so you had to bring your book, hardback copy, a 30-centimeter ruler, and several pens and pencils, and if you didn't have that, then detention. So one day we come into class, and it transpires within 5 minutes that one guy has no ruler. Now she already had it out for him. She constantly bullied him and gave him harsh punishments for the slightest mistakes, and this was no exception, so she gave him a Saturday morning detention. That was 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., and also to write out the first 5 pages of the geography book for tomorrow. Bit overkill, no? But then she finds out he has no pen, so she wants to give him 2 more detentions, but he starts telling her that he did have a pen, and that on the way to class it burst, so he threw it in the rubbish bin. So she legit dragged him out to the corridor and made him put his hand into the bin and retrieve the pen, after which she believed him and knocked off the new detentions. However, she wrote a note to his parents requesting to see them during school time tomorrow about his progress. This is where the revenge starts. Some of this I know because he told me, but some of it I heard along with the others as we stood outside the class waiting to be allowed in while the meeting was inside. I wanted to let you know that your son did not bring a ruler to class yesterday, Karen told the dad. And? No, you don't understand. He disrupted the learning of others by not bringing the correct equipment. Did he need a ruler yesterday? The dad asked her. Well, I was going to get the students to draw a diagram, but I didn't get that far, so we'll be doing it today, but he also didn't have a pen. The dad was now looking at her stack of pens on her desk. And he couldn't borrow one of yours? Couldn't give him one because that would teach him to be irresponsible and to forget things, and the rules of the class say he gets detention for forgetting it. Yeah, but the school rules don't. My son tells me you pulled him into the corridor and forced him to retrieve his pen from the garbage. Yes, to prove to me that he actually had a pen at the start of the day. But did he consent to you pulling him into the corridor and to stick his hand into that crap? Well, not explicitly. The dad then lost it. So who the heck do you think you are? Dragging me and my wife out of work to tell me he didn't have a freaking ruler that he didn't even need. You're supposed to be the teacher, not a torturer, you sicko. Where's the principal? I'm reporting you. I want you fired, and I wish to press charges of assault on you for what you did to my son. My brother is a lawyer. We'll have you behind bars for years for this. You've been giving him detentions for over a year for this kind of crap, and I won't have you bully him any longer. He storms out, and we all see this spill out into the corridor. She's scared as heck, and is all like, I'm so sorry, sir, and bear in mind, in over 1 year I never heard her apologize to anyone. Didn't think she knew what sorry was. Luckily for her, the parents didn't get the chance to meet the principal that day, so they were forced to listen to her, and eventually they calmed down. After about 1,000,000 sorries, she took the detention back and they left. Obviously no charges were pressed, and she was nice to the kid for the rest of our school lives. Like she never gave out to him again, and let him do his own thing every class, and never even checked his homework. So although this revenge story didn't happen to me, seeing her be nice to him every class after that was a pleasant reminder of that time. She had her bubble burst and her entitlement curbed. Story 3. So to start off, I had just started working at this major retail chain here in Australia. The department I worked in was electronics computers. The two departments were combined. They were technically separate, but shared the cashiers, if that makes sense. As mentioned, I had only recently started working there, so I still had my little learners sign up at my cash register. I was mostly fine, so the person who was supervising me was happy to leave me be while he cashiered on the other side of the cash desk. Enter Karen. She came to my side with the electric razor. I said, "Hi, how are you?" and asked if she had seen a sales representative, as usually someone in sales will do up the invoice for sales commission. She didn't say anything. She just looked at me like I had 3 eyes. I just opened up the new invoice option and asked for a phone number. She stared at me again, so I started to explain why we needed a number. It's for warranty purposes. The invoice stays on the system under the phone number for about 10 years. As we know, receipts tend to fade. Most products have at least a 1-year warranty. If you need it replaced, we can just ask for your number, find the invoice and print it off. Easy peasy." She continued to stare at me. At this point, I was getting anxious and thought maybe she was mute. So I offered her the keyboard so she could type her number in. She got huffy and said, "I don't want to give you my phone number." I just said okay and put in the store's phone number, as we did need it under a phone number for stock take. We were trained to put it under the work number if they refused to give details. I took the razor and scanned it. From memory, the price on the sticker was around $300-ish. It scanned in at about $160-ish. She did not like that. I told her the price and she got annoyed. "It says on the sticker it's $300. Well, yes, but there'd be signs indicating its new price. The price on the sticker is just the base retail price. It'd be a waste of stickers and time to update all the products to the new price when we can." She interrupted me and said, "This is false advertising." This threw me off guard. She must have not seen the signs with the product. I was confused as to why she was kicking up a fuss over having to pay less for a product she wanted. Like, bruh, that's a dream come true. "Well, I can call the cops about this and you guys will get in serious trouble." I'm panicking at this point as she angrily hands me money to pay for the item. I grab her change, hand it over alongside the product and receipt. She's still going on about how illegal what we're doing is, and how we're going to get in so much trouble. She then leaves, with her illegal product, still ranting, and I'm standing there baffled. I turned to my fellow cashier who laughed about it as I told him the story and said he would have just charged her full price for it. Now that would have been illegal. I am still very confused as to why she got angry when she got her item for cheaper. She must have never called the police because no one ever showed up to tell us what we were doing was illegal. That or they just laughed at her like my coworker did. As someone who is broke, how do you get angry for being charged less? I do not understand at all. Story 4. I used to live on the bottom floor of a 2-story house in a very popular beach town in North Carolina. I was in my mid-20s. The upstairs was rented out to 4 college-aged guys. So a total of 5 people, 5 cars, driveway built for 4. So one of us would either be on the grass or in a paid spot. If you had bills with your name and address, the city would give you a pass to park in certain paid spaces. So not a big deal, but finding a spot in the middle of summer was hard. The house is maybe 100 yards to the beach. It's a pretty short walk, 5 minutes tops, with beach gear and little ones. I would leave to work at 6:30 a.m. and return around 5 or 6 p.m. By the time I got home, most of the crowds would be gone, so a paid spot was easy for me to get. So I'd typically leave the driveway for the upstairs guys. One day, I was running late and didn't get out of my house till nearly 8. The other guys had left and the driveways were empty. I'm walking out to my car, and of course the lots are already 90% full or more. As I'm crossing the street, I see a minivan coming up and pulling into my driveway. I didn't recognize it, so I waited to see if I knew them or they knew the upstairs guys. Out steps polo shirt, visor, and bowling shorts dad and overly peppy mom with 3 screaming kids. Obviously no one I know. I backtrack up. "Excuse me, do you know the tenants upstairs or have permission to park here?" The entitled mom, "It doesn't matter. No one's parked here and Billy, Bobby and Brandy have to get to the beach." "Oh, so where's your car if you live there?" "In that spot there because I have a pass and—" The entitled dad interrupts me. "Don't lie to us. You're here just the same as us and just upset we know how to park for free." "I'm not lying, dude, it's 8 a.m. I'm wearing my work uniform." "We don't need to listen to you. We're going to park and you can do whatever you want. My children have to get to the beach. You're ruining our vacation, just go away." Meanwhile, the kids are climbing on my fence and trees on the street. Me? "Okay, I'll just have you towed and you can deal with it later." The entitled dad gets in my face practically nose to nose. "Try it and see. This isn't your house, you're just a little jerk." Mind you, I'm 5'11", roughly 190 pounds, and in a fairly good shape. Me. Okay, have a nice day. So I went to my car and waited till they were pretty much at the beach. And like I said, a very short walk. So I went inside, looked up a tow service on the other side of town. Hello, yes, I'd like to report a car illegally parked on my property. I give them the address. The guy on the other side of the call, sir, that's an hour away. Yay, I know I'm not paying, that's their problem. Okay, be there in about an hour and a half. I called my boss and said, not gonna be in today, and explained what happened. He's a pretty easygoing guy, told me to keep him informed. The tow truck arrives, gets the van removed, and I leave my car in the spot and wait. It's 10:30 am or so by now. Sometime around 2 or 3 p.m., there is a very angry knock at my door. Internal thoughts, this gonna be fun. Imagine the shock when I answered the door, beer in hand, grinning like an idiot. Me, can I help you? Entitled parents, you, where is our van? How did you get here? Oh yeah, here's the card for the company I had it tow your van across town. It's gonna be a fun cab ride. I shut the door in their faces. More angry yelling and knocking. Me, yes? Entitled dad, trying to get in my house. You better get us our van back. I'm gonna beat you up. I'll have you arrested. Me, get out of my house and call the cops. It's not gonna change anything. I managed to shove him out of the door, get it closed and locked. Now I wait. Next 20 minutes are full of more angry knocking and yelling. Finally, about 4 p.m.-ish, I see some blue lights, and there's a much more polite knock at my door. I grew up on the beach. It's a small number of locals. I know 70% of the locals, police, bartenders, shop owners, residents. I know a lot of people on the island. Me, oh hey Garrett, how's it going? Garrett, yay, it's good. These people say you stole their van and broke into this house. Nope, they pulled into the driveway as I was leaving for work, pulled an attitude, walked away, and said I couldn't do anything. So called Lou on the other side of town. Got their van towed there. I even gave them his card and offered to let them use my phone. Entitled mother, he's lying. He stole our car. I demand he be arrested. The entitled dad, storming up behind the officer, says, vertical bar, if you don't arrest him, I'll have you fired. This is ridiculous, blah blah. Garrett, sir, back up. I'm going to figure this out. The entitled dad now shoved past the officer, saying, this is nonsense. He was working his way into my house again. Garrett was able to pull him out and managed to get him pressed up against his cop car. Sir, you are trespassing now. Looking over at me, would you like to press charges? Me, can you keep him in your car until they get a cab? Yay, I mean I've got to get statements and everything. So, I gave my statement, went inside, grabbed a beer, went out the back door, up the back steps and around to the second floor porch, and there I sat, smiling till a cab came about or 5:30. Story 5. This story is not mine, so sorry in advance if certain details are missing or odd, since I have only heard this story twice, and this is purely based on memory. Sorry also for the long post and any grammatical mistakes. Also, I know nothing about businesses, so bear with me. Context: this is a college grade school project that my dad did in the 90s. He was taking some sort of business major and was in a group of 8 students. My father was assigned as project leader. Background: my dad was always top of his class and amazing when it came to numbers and estimates. My dad is very business-oriented and understood anything and everything to run a business. He could manage just about any business that he could be in charge of. In fact, he had taken one of those high school career aptitude tests, and it pretty much spat out the word management. I will call my dad Henry, not real name, from now on. Henry went to RRC in Canada and was majoring in business. I forget which class. He was in the class of the Dragon Lady, who, at first, loved Henry as a student, but he became her target after believing lies of other students instead of him. This is important later. The class was divided into groups of 8 and assigned a very important project that was worth a large chunk of their grade. This project had something to do with creating a fictional business product. You had to have price estimates, growth, costs, and everything else under the sun that an investor might want to know. Yes, they had to present this project to actual investors this year who would grade the company. Henry was assigned project leader, and he started to get the ball rolling since this was a very important project. Out of the 8 students on this project, Henry did most of the work. 4 others did their best, and the remaining 3 were slackers. I will refer to these slackers as the 3 Stooges. You will see why later. The story: so the project is going along smoothly in Henry's care. He is trying to even the workload to the best of everyone's ability. About a quarter of the way through the project, the 3 Stooges hated that Henry was in charge and came up with a great idea to be in charge. They befriended the Dragon Lady. She was feared by all students except those in her good graces. She liked to harass people for no good reason and would double down on others. The 3 Stooges were telling lies about how lazy Henry was, how he sat around bossing others to do his work, and how the 3 Stooges were doing most of the work. The lies went on for a long time, and Henry was no longer in her good graces. Henry tried to defend himself, even asking his other group members for help, but they were terrified of the Dragon Lady and remained silent. This was happening until halfway through the project Henry lost his position as project leader with the 3 Stooges now in charge. They had gotten what they wanted and left Henry alone. The revenge: Henry stopped helping since the 3 Stooges took over. These 3 knew nothing, absolutely nothing about business, and thought it was a good idea to throw some random numbers here and some random numbers there. Henry had kept the first half of the project professional and logical, while these guys went off the hook to make it look impressive. Anyone who knows something about business knows that if you make $100 a day, and then suddenly start making $1,000 a day with no explanations or anything real to back it up, then it won't work in reports. Questions will be asked, and you will have to explain and show how it is possible. This is exactly what happened when presentation day came by. The group entered the room and sat down in front of the investors while the 3 Stooges presented the project. The investors took notes and were very impressed until the halfway point, where everything went downhill from there. The investors started asking questions, the 3 Stooges' answers kept going around in circles, and they begged Henry for help. He refused, of course, since this was their brilliant idea. Aftermath: to put this already long post short, the investors tore the project apart and Henry's group got the lowest score. Since each group got points to spread evenly, or where they deserve to go affects your final grade, Henry got the unanimous vote of getting enough points for an A, while the 3 Stooges got Fs. The rest of the points were divided, and the 4 neutral students got Cs. Also, the 3 Stooges failed the class and couldn't continue in the course. Story 6. I had to get permission from a friend of mine to share this story. I find it to be a heartwarming one that shows if you mess with one veteran, you mess with all of us. So, I have a friend that we'll call John. His grandfather is a Korean War and Vietnam War veteran. He served as an infantryman in the United States Marine Corps for over 20 years. He's very proud of his service, and his son and grandson, my friend John, have all followed in his footsteps, serving as infantrymen in the Marine Corps with pride. John's grandfather, who we'll call Gunny, retired to a southwestern state that's very hot and covered in cactus. He was widowed and wanted to live closer to his son and grandson. He bought a home in a community that had a homeowners association. After moving in, he proudly hung his United States Marine Corps flag and the American flag outside his home, just like he had done in his house back east. Shortly thereafter, he was told that he could not hang his Marine Corps flag because it was against the Homeowners Association regulations. He even went to a meeting to see if he could get an exemption for military flags since American flags were allowed. The association told him he could not fly the flag outside, but was welcome to keep it in his home or garage. Gunny, to his credit, decided to handle the situation in a calm and civilized manner. Now, Gunny was the perfect example of a gruff old veteran, and that Marine Corps flag he flew was older than his grandson, who had just gotten out of the Marine Corps. Gunny asked John if he could invite some of his veteran friends over for a barbecue and a little think tank session. Including Gunny, John, and John's father, there were 12 of us there. Gunny told us he had a plan and needed our help. He handed us the Homeowners Association handbook and said he wanted to give them a reason to change their minds about his flag, and he'd like our help to do it. After a couple of hours of brainstorming, we came up with a plan to encourage the board to allow military flags to be displayed. We put together a plan to show our military pride to the entire neighborhood. The association rules said that he could have anything he wanted in his garage and could keep his garage door open as long as the garage was being used. In addition, the rules mentioned a quiet ordinance from 10 p.m. until 6 a.m. every night. Keep that in mind. So, John and his father got every veteran they knew, including me, to join in Operation Pride. Starting on a Monday, several of us gathered outside Gunny's home. At 6 a.m. sharp, we played Reveille over a boombox. We even stood in formation and did calisthenics right there in his front yard, loudly counting off as if it were boot camp. Those of us who could, because several had bad knees, including myself, went for a jog in formation up and down the neighborhood streets, singing military cadences. Gunny even taught us a colorful one called Napalm Sticks to Kids. The rest of the day, we all took turns hanging out in his garage, where he proudly displayed a large collection of military flags, many donated by us. Included were the traditional branch flags, along with some older and more spirited banners from his service days. While we were in the garage, we needed to stay active. So, John and I chipped in and bought one of those punching dummies that look like a person, the kind you fill with sand or water. Wouldn't you know it, Gunny allowed us to do bayonet practice with the dummy. All day, there was at least one of us in there yelling, "Strike, strike, strike," while thrusting that poor dummy. Gunny even let those who didn't have their own practice rifles borrow one of his old service weapons, carefully disabled for safety. It was like holding a piece of history. When we weren't taking our frustration out on the dummy, we lifted weights in the garage, practiced hand-to-hand combat techniques, and held traditional military-style lectures. Some of these discussions included proper defense techniques and how to project your voice when on parade ground. This continued until 10 p.m. the next day. It started all over again. We did this for over a week. Gunny seemed to enjoy having the company of fellow veterans at his house all day, and we got a great workout and made lasting memories. He even shared stories from his time in Korea and Vietnam. A lot of us shared our own experiences too. Some, including myself, took the gatherings as an opportunity to open up about our struggles with post-traumatic stress disorder. The group became not just about getting even with the Homeowners Association, but about supporting each other. The police were called twice, but there was nothing they could do since we weren't breaking any laws. Practicing drills and exercising in a garage are not crimes. After 8 days of fun and fellowship, the Homeowners Association sent Gunny a letter stating that he was free to fly his Marine Corps flag outside his house. With that, our daily meetups were no longer needed. But many of us had grown close to Gunny and to each other during that week. Depending on the day and time, there were anywhere from 3 to 18 of us at his house. Veterans of Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm, Afghanistan, and Iraq. It meant a lot for us to spend time together like that. Gunny set it up so that on the last Sunday of every month, we were all welcome to come to his place for a barbecue and a bonding session. This tradition continued for 18 months until Gunny passed away. Every one of us attended his funeral. On the morning of his funeral, we all gathered outside his house at 6 a.m., played Reveille, and went on a jog up and down the street singing our cadences in his honor. That old Marine Corps flag still flies proudly at John's father's house to this day. This was 14 years ago, but I remember it like it was yesterday.